I recently made the final table of a $10,000 buy-in tournament at Aria at the PokerGO studio, featuring a few of the best players in the world, including Eric Seidel, Shannon Shore, and our opponent in this hand, Jeremy Osmus, who plays all the games amazingly well. He plays great poker. But in this hand, we're going to battle with him. Let's see how I go about playing the big stack in position in this interesting spot.
Yeah, what place did you get in the first one?
Don't worry, I'm no threat.
You got first, and you got like fifth or something?
That is correct. Shore on top of the U.S. Poker Open
all night running
standings.
sims on, like, knowing,
Yeah.
adding that factor in.
Yeah.
I get to spike, call him ace 3-0, he just fires it in.
2 tens for Jeremy Osmus.
Double stack.
130.
Queen Jack of clubs for our chip leader.
A beautiful spot too on the button. He can proceed in various ways. Elects to flat.
Shore with the king 9 offsuit.
This is a bit of a slippery spot for Shannon. Yeah, we've got king 9, but you have to be suspect going 3 ways. You're never even thrilled when it comes king high.
In this episode of Weekly Poker Hand, we see Jeremy Osmus raising it up with pocket tens, which is perfectly fine in standard. And notice that I am the big stack by a mile. I have 4.2 million chips playing 30,000, 60,000, and everyone else has between 1 million chips and 1.9 million chips, and that person with 1.9 million is Jeremy Osmus. So when he raises and I'm on the button, I have a lot of options. This is a scenario where, as the big stack, I get to play a much wider range than if there were no payout implications at all, because Jeremy really does not want to go broke before the other players at the table, given he is, pretty solidly in second place out of 6. So in this scenario, I think I have 2 options with the Queen Jack of clubs. I can call, which is what I did. I think Queen Jack of clubs is a perfectly reasonable hand to call. Or I can just rip it all in, because if I rip it all in, Jeremy has to call off really tightly, and even when he does call, I'm going to have okay equity with Queen Jack of clubs. That said, I think Jeremy is probably going to be opening pretty tight to begin with. He's very aware of ICM. He's probably aware that I know what I'm doing. So this is a spot where I think he's going to be really tight to begin with. So for that reason, I opted to call. It is worth noting, Shannon Shore folded the king 9 offsuit in the big blind. And some may say, wow, isn't that really tight? But the answer is no. In this scenario, Shannon is third in chips, right? And he really does not want to go broke before the shorter stacks as well. And there's actually some chance that I bust Jeremy in this hand. And if I bust Jeremy in this hand, that's obviously really good for Shannon. He wants to avoid spots where he's going to be put in a bluff catching scenario. And it turns out hands like king 9 offsuit usually flop top pair bad kicker or middle pair bad kicker. And that is not where you want to be. So I really like Shannon's pre-flop fold. All right, let's head to the flop.
They trim it down, like the multiplier.
As we can see, he would have been in a great spot post-flop.
Exactly, but it's basically dollar for dollar, except once it gets
But we have seen that more and more over the last couple years, players tightening up from the big blind and multi-way pots.
Like 3 10Ks is probably worth like 220.
something like that.
Should see. I feel like they should do it also on like field side.
Osmus deciding what is optimal. Out of position against the chip leader with a couple of tens, and he's going to try
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact math.
165.
and pump it up. Out of position, 2 tens, 165, representing a great deal of strength. Little does have that backdoor equity.
Tournament format, that's about it.
He's not going to go down without a fight.
This king high board, I think, is a spot where Jeremy wants to check a ton, because my pre-flop calling range is going to have a whole lot of suited connected type hands, hands with a king, etc. And, very importantly, when I do have backdoor draws like my hand, I'm going to get to call any sort of small bet. Now, I don't hate Jeremy's small bet, but I think he probably just wants to check and call, and I realize that leads to a lot of pretty dicey scenarios. But when he bets, if he gets raised, it's miserably bad right there. And if I call, it's also not particularly great, and I'm going to call a small bet a ton in this scenario, way more than minimum defense frequency, again, because I'm the big stack and I get to apply a lot of turn and river pressure. So facing the small bet, I think calling is the only viable option. I think my hand has really good equity. I don't really want to raise. I wouldn't mind raising a substantially worse hand or a draw that I could reasonably get it in with, but I think this hand plays very well by calling. I know a lot of people look at this spot and think, oh, just fold. You don't have anything. You have queen high. But no. When you're the big stack, you get to splash around a lot.
Bottom right corner of your screen. 4 spades on the turn. The 10s for Osman still best.
Jeremy not thrilled with Jonathan Little's decision to continue. However, I also believe that he would expect Little to come along for the ride on a variety of flops, no matter what his holding is. Various floats. Here's a pot control sort of check. Opens up the door for Little. Just queen high. Little does bet here. You can bet he's also going to need to bet the river to tell a believable story.
Does fire 350,000, a little less than half pot.
You must have worked on that last night. We're going bed.
It's not a bad bet. 7-5 gets there. Certainly Jonathan can have a hand like 7-5 suited. And he's able to just put Jeremy in a really brutal spot with 2 10s. You are guessing on the river no matter what.
Folds the 10s, and Little gets it done with just queen high.
The turn comes at 4, and Jeremy checks. And when he checks, I need to bet very frequently using a size that will allow me to jam all in on the river when I feel inclined. Now, I don't think this queen jack is the best hand to bluff in this scenario because I block some hands that will perhaps check call the turn and then check fold the river, mainly queens and jacks. I'd much rather have a hand like ace-2 of clubs because ace-2 of clubs has an overcard to a king when he does check a king. And I do think Jeremy will check this turn a ton of the time. Kind of like I think he should check the flop a ton of the time. So this is a situation where when he does check, I am going to get crushed when he does randomly have a king, right? But, you know, I suppose I do block king, queen, and king jack, which are hands that are auto check calls. So maybe it's not the worst hand to bluff. Also, if he does have a hand like pocket 9s or pocket 10s like he does, I have 2 overcards, which is nice. And he may just fold immediately. So I do go for the 350K bet, which is about half pot. And notice, if he does call, that's going to set up roughly a pot size river shove. And I can already tell you, this is a spot where I'm going to be shoving a lot because, again, the ICM pressure, the payout implications, force Jeremy to call off substantially tighter than if there were no payout implications on the turn, and then also even tighter on the river because he really doesn't want to go broke before those shallow stacks. So I bet 350K, and Jeremy lets it go. That's good for me. We pick up the pot and we move forward. I want to ask you, how much would you have bet on this turn, or would you have even made it to the turn? Would you have folded? Be honest. If you're honest with me, that'll help me know how to better help all of you in the future. So in the comment section below, write how much you would have bet on the turn, and if you would have bet the turn to begin with, and why you would have bet the turn, and then would you have bet the river? Don't write me a whole essay, but would you have actually followed through with this bluff? Because this is a common spot that comes up at the final table as a big stack, and if you would have played this hand much differently than this, unless you would have ripped it all in pre-flop, I think it's pretty bad. And I don't want you to play poorly. I want you to crush your opponents. So be honest, let me know in the comment section below. That's gonna be it for this video. Huge thanks to PokerGO for letting us use this content. Make sure you check them out at PokerGO.com. They have all the best poker content. They stream all of the high-stakes final tables that take place around the world. It is amazing. If you like poker, you need to go sign up for PokerGO. Also, be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons. We have lots of new videos that come out on a regular basis, and I want to be sure you do not miss any of them. So make sure you click the like and subscribe button, and also click the notification bell so that you're aware of all the content we put out. Good luck in your games. Have fun. And when you're at the chip leader at the final table, bluff your opponents out of their seat.